Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by author and founder of Rapid Resolution Therapy, Dr. John Connelly. We're going to be talking to him about his books, Rapid Resolution Therapy, and how it works and why he decided to found it. And we're going to be talking to him about everything that he's up to and going to be up to. So, Dr. Connelly, thank you so much for joining me.
Or just call me John Curtis. Thanks so much. And I so appreciate you inviting me.
All right. Well, John, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I think what people are interested in is this process I put together, which is rapid resolution therapy. And what I was looking to do after being trained in a mental health field, I found that what I was taught to do seemed to be taking a long time, was often really painful for people, and the results were questionable. I mean, we did give somebody to talk to. I guess that's a good idea, but I wanted to be able to do significantly better than that for folks. So I began over time looking for what could I do that will make a difference for people quickly, but also deeply. And I began to create something that was really very, very different from what I was trained in, and what certainly different from what the people who trained with me were trained in. We've been getting some excellent results, and I sure help you. I sure thank you for giving me a chance to get the word out.
Well, let's talk about rapid resolution therapy. Talk about how it's different than other traditional talk therapies.
Sure. Well, in so many ways, but I think when people go to therapy, they are expecting to spend um, a significant amount of time trying to figure out what things they might have gone through previously that causes the frustrations and difficulties, emotional pain and stuckness that they're in currently. And when they get involved in that process, the practitioner is clear up front with them that they're provided with some kind of a safe place to be figuring things out, but that the client is the one that's responsible for causing the any change that's going to take place to take place. I remember learning to tell people, you getting better is certainly up to you. I'm going to be here and support you and encourage you, but it's your job. So one difference between what I'm teaching people to do and what I was taught to do is, I believe if you come to me and there's an area in which you have been stuck or troubled, that it's not your job to fix it while you're with me, but it's our job to uh, to impact on what's going on within your mind in order to cause it to begin working much more to your liking. So one significant difference is um, the practitioner takes responsibility for causing the shift to take place. And we cause that shift to take place utilizing what I call multi-level communication. Because as you certainly know, you have the ability to be logical, you have the ability to be reasonable, but certainly my dreams last night weren't very logical. Um, so our mind can understand things through logic and reason, but not the entire mind. So we look to impact on the mind in ways that will affect various facets of mind, so that we can cause a um, a change that seems to come from inside out, that's effortless, that feels natural, and and that way is likely to be lasting.
Well, walk us through what happens during a RRT session.
Sure. I do want to mention, Curtis, because I think your wonderful folks listening might be interested in this. Um, I've really decided that this is the time in my life where I want to be giving back and making this available to everybody worldwide. And in order to do that, 8 times a month, I do a free open workshop. We call it Solutions. And any of your listeners can join us and watch this thing happen, or raise their hand and participate so that it happens for them. Uh, Costs nothing. We do it twice a week because we want it to be available to people who are in different time zones. We have people listening from Asia, from Europe, and of course, all across the United States. So the way that people would jump into that and be part of it is it's going to the website, which is rapidresolutiontherapy.com. And there you can register and show up. And I find that people tell us that they are um, getting significant benefit from it, even the ones who aren't personally participating, because the way it's laid out is designed to cause a significant benefit, of course, for the person that raises his hand and tells me about his specific issue, but we look to make a difference for everyone in attendance. So that would just be a way to get up close and personal and experience this and do it for nothing at your convenience, in order to learn more. What if I mention, how would this process begin? What are we doing to begin with? The first thing I want to do when somebody comes in to meet with me is I let them know that I would like to know what that individual thinks I should understand about what they are experiencing currently in terms of turmoil, or in terms of a sense of being stuck, something they've been wanting to cause themselves to do or feel or think that they haven't been able to, or just what has been going on in terms of anything that's been uncomfortable within them. And so the process begins with me making sure that I really, really get it. Um, and from that person's experience, what he thinks I should know, which might seem like, well, wouldn't you get that everywhere? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. I mean, when I was being trained as a mental health professional, they gave me a series of questions that I was supposed to ask people that had nothing at all to do with what that person was coming in for. I was supposed to get this background, cover all these different areas so that I could create a diagnosis, which is sort of like establishing an identity for somebody based on pathology. Um, and I don't find that a useful way to move people forward. I don't want to provide a process in which somebody is better educated as to why they're unhappy. Um, I'm looking to um, create something that'll create significant movement forward. So it begins with demonstrating real understanding. And what people say is, I don't think anybody's ever heard me that deeply. I feel more understood in the few minutes than I think I have speaking to anybody. After we get that understanding, then we're going to create a shared intention, um, and so that we're both looking at, okay, what is desirable? We understand it's been feeling like this. That's how it has been. Now we're going to look to create um, just what it is that we're intending to cause and to create that intention in a way that the entire mind can be receiving and begin immediately moving toward. And I can go into that a bit more if that's okay with you. I would
Yeah, go
say,
right ahead.
okay, I would say that when people are stuck, when people are in turmoil, it's um, what you're likely to hear if you ask somebody what's been going on for them. What you're likely to hear first is that person telling you really what they don't want. So, what would you like out of this? Well, I'd like to not have all this anxiety. I don't want to feel so lonely. I don't want to feel lazy. I don't want to feel stuck. I don't want to have all this resentment or anger or jealousy or shame or whatever it is. Um, and that's often the way that it's laid out within people's minds before we begin. If it's also probably going to come across as this is what I want and this is what I need. I need this, I want this, and this is how I don't want things to be. And the problem with that is as soon as somebody starts telling me that stuff, I can usually hear right within it why it hasn't happened. Um, One is our minds don't know how to understand negation and don't, from somebody thinking about what they don't want, translating it and shifting it to what actually is intended. So most people very quickly realize that up until the point of the first conversation with me, um, they never could have moved forward because even in the way they've been thinking about moving forward, or the blocks that have been in the way. Uh, Even if somebody is looking at it in terms of what is wanted or needed instead of what is not wanted or needed, um, I've learned that when somebody says, "I really want this," mind hears want as lack. So as soon as I want it, my unconscious is hearing, this is something you don't have. People want to motivate themselves to bring it from a want to a need and say, no, I need it. I need to stop smoking. I need to do this. I need to meet people. I need to make more money. Whatever. That need creates a sense of burden, obligation, and sort of operates in a way that signals danger. If I need it, I'm dead without it, and and begins to cause our bodies and minds to operate in just the opposite of the way that would begin to move things forward. So the first thing we're doing is really setting things up within that individual's mind and mine so that we really know and know in a way that the entire mind will understand what it is that is intended. And that's that's how it begins. And just to do that, to have that deep and shared intention is on the way forward to what it is that is your goal. Um, and it's a real relief for people to understand that I'm not telling them to figure it out and that it's their job to do it. I say, it's my job. You're here. You showed up. You've been open with me. Um, um, it's certainly my job to put things together so that this begins to happen for you. It's my job to use what I've learned about how mind works. Um, in order to influence your mind. And by your mind, I mean even those parts of your mind that are way beyond your reach, that are what you'd call unconscious, uh, to get your mind organized so that it automatically begins moving you forward toward what's desired.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, everybody, it's Michael E. Cullen II.
And I'm Sesame and Carta from the All Too Real 2 podcast. We're passionate about movies, TV, and pretty much all things pop culture.
Dive into the chaos of failed sitcoms, direct-to-video sequels, and the quirky realms of cinema and TV.
Join us every Thursday for your dose of All Too Real 2 entertainment.
We'll guide you through debates like whether Howard the Duck qualifies as a superhero.
Ponder if Larry the Cable Guy could be the new Rock or Schwarzenegger.
Discover if some shows and movies should have stayed in the cutting room.
Ever heard of a sitcom featuring that dictator with the funny mustache? Well, we watched it.
We're dedicated to unraveling the peculiarities of pop culture, sometimes with awesome guests.
So, if you're into the eccentric world of pop culture,
listen and subscribe to All Too Real 2.
Available wherever you find podcasts
and on Age of Radio.
Well, let's talk about how RRT allows your clients to clear trauma without experiencing any of the past painful memories.
When I learned, when beginning, what I heard was that what we needed to do is first figure out what had been traumatic and happened in a person that was disturbing to them, and then to provide people with a safe place, I was told, in order to release these painful emotions. And release meant to experience and express, and to experience meant to relive the very worst moments of your life. And so I was learning to be able to cause people how to re-experience the worst things they'd already experienced and survived. If if somebody has gone through a terrible experience, if somebody was raped or humiliated or beaten up or assaulted or even just went through the more normal things we go through in childhood, shame and being controlled by others and what have you, my feeling now is once was more than enough. So what we look to do is create a strong connection in the present so that that person and I are deeply connected. They're not going to go back and relive any painful thing from previously. But with that connection, we're able to together look at where the mind is still responding to that earlier event as if it's continuing to happen or as if it has some deeper meaning about the person that's continuing to happen. We can look at it together, and together we basically shine a light where there was shadow, so that he gets it through every facet of his being, through his entire mind. He fully gets it that this painful experience is completed, finished, defeated, over, done. He's already defeated it by surviving it and getting his entire mind to get that good news, to bring the light into where the shadow has been. And that's a process that, rather than grieving, is a process of celebrating, recognizing how much that it has been defeated, and letting that good news go all the way through. The problem with traumatic events is mind hasn't gotten the good news that the thing isn't still happening. That's why if somebody begins talking about an experience that they had that was disturbing previously, let's say some kind of horrific thing on a battlefield, why doesn't he want to talk about it? He doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't want to describe it in a way that will cause him to feel it. Well, he's already been there and finished with it. Well, why would he want to feel it again? It was awful. So I don't want him to feel it either. I want him to stop feeling it. I don't want him to be feeling it consciously as well as unconsciously. I want him to no longer be feeling it consciously or unconsciously, and instead to experience the celebration of having defeated it. So the crap that we went through earlier in our lives, if we're alive, if our heart's beating, we've survived that terrible stuff, but our mind doesn't automatically update so that we get that good news. I think our human minds are so much more advanced than any other creature. I mean, zebras didn't build London. Humans can do all kinds of things no other life form can do. However, with all of these advances came significant dysfunction, and so just like my new smartphone has a whole lot that can go wrong with it compared to the phone that had a dial on it that I used as a boy. Um, it can do a lot more stuff, but there's more stuff that can go wrong. And and the problem, I think, with a really complicated advanced human mind is nobody gave us an owner's manual.
Let's talk about, I know that you emphasize the power of language and healing. So explain what role language plays in RRT.
Yeah, of course. Um, well, a simple thing is I might say to somebody, hey, um, if there's something you have been successful doing your entire life, can you do it a few more seconds? Could you do it 10 more seconds if you've done it 100% since the moment you were born? And everybody says yes. And I say, okay, here you go. All I need you to do for 10 seconds is not even once think about a mermaid with a great big red tail. And of course, everybody fails that. So a simple basic about language is that although conscious mind understands negation, most of our mind doesn't. And therefore, as we're trying to not experience things, we're causing the experience we're trying not to have. Other things, conscious mind, most of the people I'm meeting with are pretty bright, and they grasp things with generalities, and they grasp things with concepts, um, conceptually, and theoretically, and begin thinking about and describing things like that, which is fine, except for if we're looking to create a shift, a change, a breakthrough, the unconscious doesn't even understand that stuff. So we need to repackage what's being intended so that every part of the mind gets it. Um, and that's done with language, and language might, for instance, be much more in terms of what is intended rather than what isn't. We often use language that is sensory specific. For instance, if I was to, if you think of listening to a speech where somebody's talking about the advantages of eating a lot of fiber, and the second person gets up and says, "Hey, it's really good to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables," and talks about that. And the third person gets up and says, think if you were holding an orange and began tugging the skin off the orange until all the skin was off and just that white fuzzy stuff, and you feel the orange, and it's so much softer than it was to begin with. And if you squeeze just gently, a droplet of that juice comes out, and there's a fragrance that accompanies that juice, and you capture that droplet with the tip of your tongue before biting in and letting that juice just squirt into your mouth, tart and sweet. Well, everybody is going to experience a much more significant level of salivation after listening to the third speech than the first one or the second one. Well, so what? Well, the so what is I'm looking to cause things to shift from within, meaning from where you do things automatically, meaning from like where your habits come from, where the emotions come from, where the things are coming from that you're not consciously doing, but consciously, but instead you're like responding to. And so that's an example of how we begin using language to get deep in there, so that the change, the shift is automatic. We do things that create um, altered states of consciousness that causes the mind to receive things at a very deep level, while the individual is just feeling a very comfortable and pleasing experience consciously inside, deep inside the mind. Things are organizing and shifting, um, so that problems are solved, and positive shifts happen. And by doing that, people are telling us that they're eliminating heartbreak, eliminating jealousy, eliminating resentment, eliminating angry, useless, angry, explosive reactions to things, improving relationships, uh, improving their experience academically in school, improving things that they're doing at work, opening up creativity. And all of those things seem to be happening unconsciously. If somebody begins describing that stuff to you, um, they'll say, well, that's just me. That's just me, because it's not conscious choices happening. So we're using various levels of consciousness. We're using very precise language um, to cause that shift to happen from inside out. There's also a number of books that I've written that are available on Amazon now, where you get to read word for word how these shifts have taken place for people. One of them is called Life Changing Conversations. Another one is called Quick Shifts. And a third one, which has a rather controversial title, is Grief is Not Sacred, where we've created a process that has enabled people to move past the incredible pain that grief can cause. Often, in some situations where people are just told, well, you're never going to not grieve. You're going to experience this pain for the rest of your life. Um, and we've found ways by getting deep into the mind and shifting things where instead of experiencing ongoing pain, grief, loss, this individual is experiencing an ongoing connection with the loved person, even though that loved person has passed, an ongoing connection where they can there's a continued celebration and guidance and gratefulness rather than loss and terrible pain. So we found out a bunch of things that I think make the world better. And one of the things I feel really good about with people learning this RRT process, a lot of what I do is train people to do that. And if you if you check into most training programs that are out there, um, are really sort of designed for what can I do to make me have a better life? How can I gain more money? How can I gain more status? How can I gain more of this? How can I gain more of that? I think it puts people on a hamster wheel that's frustrating and ends up not being satisfied. We spend a whole lot of time teaching people how they can be beneficial to others and then showing them how the light uh, of that intention to make a difference in other people's lives shines through them, making their lives better. And we've formed a whole community of people that joyfully provide this support, this inspiration, and this expertise to each other.
Well, let's talk about your early experiences as a child protective service worker. How does that shape your therapeutic approach?
Well, it made me realize that people go through horrendous things. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, and I found myself out there with a job where my job was to go and basically knock on the door of somebody I've never met, and when they open the door, say, "Hey, I'm here because there's been an allegation that you've been abusing your child," and it was a really high pressure and difficult thing, and really woke me up to how many awful things can be happening out there, and the impression that they then continue to have later. There, my job was to see how could we change the environment that child was in so that the child could live in at least a safe environment. Um, and everything that I was doing when I began my career doing that was designed to affect the environment that this child was in. Now that I'm working with older people, I'm not working with infants. I'm not looking to change people's environments directly, although I show, well, I don't just show, I cause people to have the experience of doing that for themselves and making a big difference there. But I got to work with what's going on within the mind of the person that's right in front of me. I can't just take and move that person to a different home. I'm not going to call, if you come in and say that your boss has said nasty things to you, I'm not going to call up your boss and say, hey, you should be nice to him. I have to shift the way these messages are received, how they feel, and how you respond so that change that's desired can happen.
Well, let's talk about how you address the skeptics, clinicians, clients who are used to a longer therapy model.
Well, they're used to it because they haven't seen any other possibility. But I mean, I can tell you people that show up for the solutions 8 times a month. Many of them have been in experiences where they've been spending a long time trying to get deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding the roots of what causes malfunctioning behavior and causes emotional suffering currently. And people are wide open and ready for relief. People are interested in overcoming the pain they've been living in. And so I don't find that there's much there's really no difficulty in doing that. You know, one of the other things I learned earlier, and as I was learning to be a mental health professional, is we were always talking about how the people we were trying to assist had this thing called resistance. Um, and you know what resistance is? It means I say something and you tell me your thoughts about what I said, which may very well include your disagreement, which to me isn't resistance at all, but is instead cooperation because you're being open and communicating what's going on for you. Um, so I think people just immediately respond positively to being deeply heard and to being in a situation where somebody else takes the responsibility for piloting through these changes rather than telling people that it's their job to get themselves better. And so I find that there's just excitement and gratefulness when people learn that there are um, uh, fast and effective ways to clear the pain that they've been in.
Well, what kind of issues and diagnosis respond best to RRT?
Yeah, well, we don't diagnose at all because if you know in the mental health field, I was taught to diagnose. We have a big book of different ways of labeling people, and then we would say, okay, this is what you are, and this is what you've got, and and that's supposed to be confidential, but it's not. It's sent into this agency and that agency, and all this information is out there and telling people that the problem that they've been experiencing is their essence, their identity, would be to me about the worst thing to do to get them past it. But I can tell you that we have been really effective in addressing, for instance, people with academic issues, kids who are told that they're not working hard enough, that they're too lazy, that they're not focused, that they're too scattered. We've been successful in meeting with people who have had a fear of showing up, and they are looking to make a difference, make their life better professionally and personally, um, and show up to do that as like you are today, but some kind of fear has derailed them. So that's another area where we're jumping in and making a significant shift for people. People are burdened with deep shame. More often than that, some who recognize it, most who don't. But I find even in teaching, people are shame motivated as they're trying to learn. You know, when you think back to your education, didn't your teacher sometimes collect papers from you? And when she gave them back to you, had she written on them? And when she wrote on them, what color did she write in? And when she wrote these big red marks all over your paper, were they indicating those things you did that she liked? Or was she instead writing big red thick circles around everything that was that she thought of as a mistake? Where we grow up where shame is a significant piece that's attached to learning. So I look to get shame out of the way, because the way to move forward successfully is to do it wrong. It's not to be hesitant to do it wrong and therefore not do it at all. It's when you do something, there really is no wrong, because you're finding out what works, what doesn't work, where it is, where it isn't. Um, um, so we make differences there. People, of course, are going through all kinds of turmoil and agony in terms of relationships, whether it's the pain from breakup or feeling insecure, unable to move forward and create connections that can be joyful and lasting. And we're good at pinpointing what's been in the way of that, and getting um, uh, things there to just naturally work better. Also, the people who are in ongoing relationships that are stuck in things like jealousy and resentment, and the joy, the joy has gone out, but the structure of the environment causes these people that are more unhappy than happy with each other to remain stuck together. Well, we can shift things there and begin to rekindle joy and pleasure and fun in relationships, which of course makes a significant difference also for children. And we have people who have specialized in applying these methods even to young little children who are dealing with shyness or shame or fear, or afraid to go into school, or afraid of this or afraid of that, or nightmares at night. And we've just learned how to use this communication in a way that causes mind to ease and to shift and to gentle up, um, so that people can be more at ease and more at ease with each other. And there's so much um, there's so much dissension all through the world. I mean, people are so screwed up that we're spending a lot of time killing each other's children. I mean, um, there's enough stuff. There's an abundance of stuff we could have, and people could prosper. So I'd like to get out there and make a difference. We want to. I don't want the earth to be inhabited by nothing but robots and roaches. I want to get there and create kindness and prosperity and caring and compassion, um, instead of having people um, living in terror and deprivation.
Well, let's talk about the actions that you are taking to make RRT more accessible to underserved communities.
Well, the thing that I am doing that is most significant, I think, is that I personally do um, these workshops open to everyone from around the world, 2-hour workshops twice a week. And and that's where I can make a contribution because nobody has to come up with any way to a lot of people who would come in wouldn't have money to pay for things, um, but they have an interest in ending suffering, and that's all we need. We also have scholarshiped people from around the world to the training program if they have a passion to assist others, but didn't have the income to provide for the tuition. And we have, I began a nonprofit organization, Institute for Survivors of Sexual Violence, in order to provide services at no charge to people who have experienced, um, any kind of trauma. Done training programs for people looking to assist um, uh, um, veterans and first responders in dealing with the traumas that they experience. So much of my life is all about making these things that I've been lucky enough to be able to glean and put together out there so as many people as possible can reach up and benefit without any kind of paywall at all.
Well, are there any adaptations for RRT for people with disabilities such as blind or neurodivergent?
Of course, um, we've certainly been there for people who were unable to see, found ways to um, communicate and make a difference with people that have been labeled as neurodivergent. Um, so there are issues people have, like let's say somebody is diabetic. I'm not suggesting that RRT will eliminate their diabetes or give sight to people who can't see. But I am saying that that people do have minds that can be affected in ways that can make a significant difference in quality of life, and we want to offer that to the people from around the world who have um, those kinds of difficulties and concerns. So, I mean, people will show up who are even in facilities, in living situations where they can't, haven't been living on their own, maybe through a stroke or some kind of disability. But if they can get to a computer or even their smartphone, um, we're available to them. I even have people who have been tuning in from prison, um, um, and all kinds of things. So yeah, we're looking to remove any barrier to benefiting as much as we can benefit people. We can't restore vision to people who have lost it, but we can do things to create a mental environment that's friendly for that person, where they can um, understand what it is they can do and can accomplish and can experience. And it's certainly my privilege to do that personally and teach others how to.
Well, I got one final question for you. Talk about your vision for the future of mental health care and how or where does RRT fit into your vision?
Well, it's the entirety of what I'm able to do. I mean, I look at the world and it's pretty wounded out there. So one of the things I had to figure out is, to think about. I mean, if I start thinking about what can't I do, there's so much suffering, so much poverty, so much horror, so much war that I can't directly touch. But um, what I'm looking at is, okay, what can I touch? How can I be available to those folks who are out there? And and I know that when we make a difference for somebody in their lives, they make a difference for other people in their lives. And that's the part I can do. So that's my vision, that we shift into a world of sharing the abundance that we would have available through advances in science and technology. Um, that this abundance could be shared with kindness, generosity, and compassion. Um, and I know what's out there, and I know it feels sometimes like I'm taking spoonfuls of water out of the ocean. But I look to do everything that I can do in order to make a difference, and bit by bit we are. So that's the vision, and the vision is also that people realize that making a difference for others and in the way the world works as a whole is the most satisfying, gratifying, positive thing you can do for your own life. And if we have people recognizing that it's not just about accumulating wealth, which has become for so many people, um, and not something satisfying, but just another addiction. People are on, this hamster wheel of they have $1 billion, and every day they're trying to figure out how they can get more money, even if that's taking away from people who have nothing. Um, and I've met and worked with people like that. That's not causing any real deep satisfaction in life. It's just it's like being addicted, but instead of crack, it's methamphetamine. It's wealth that doesn't really provide any kind of deep answer and satisfaction. So what we're looking to do is teach people that the thing that you can do to make your own life rich and wonderful is to make a difference for others.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, for more information on Rapid Resolution Therapy, visit www.rapidresolutiontherapy.com. Close us out with some final thoughts, John. Anything, if there was something I forgot to talk about that you would like to touch on, or
I
any
can't
final thoughts
imagine
you
what
have
you
for the
forgot to
listeners?
talk about, Sarah. That was a wonderful interview, and I so appreciate the thoughtfulness behind your questions, and just the tonality and the way you respond to things. You're clearly a really caring guy, and your mission is taking place, and you're making a difference. And it was a great privilege to be part of it.
Well, I appreciate you, and listeners, visit www.curveball337.com for more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball show. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. And John, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, sir. Thanks so much.
For more information on the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, visit www.curveball337.com. Until next time, keep living the dream.